Our house is a very, very, very fine house with two cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy because of you. That's a song called Our House by Crosby, Stills, and Nash from their album from 1970 called Deja Vu. Joe Thurman, my co-host, chose those lyrics this week, and we agreed to do Crosby, Stills, and Nash because David Crosby just died, and we'll talk a little bit about him a little bit later, but we felt it was necessary to honor David Crosby a little bit and use some Crosby, Stills, and Nash lyrics. How you doing today, Joe?
Not bad, Sean. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my brother. How you been?
Doing pretty well. Feeling good because tomorrow is the last, for me, Friday's not the end of the work week, Saturday is. So tomorrow is my Friday. I'm pretty pumped up about that. I got my taxes done today.
Right. Football on tomorrow. Yeah.
Football tomorrow. Once I get home from work, the first game, honestly, is Jags Chiefs. That could potentially be pretty lopsided. Who knows?
You never ever know.
You never know. But what I'm saying is it could be lopsided, and I'll only miss probably like the first half, maybe the third quarter. Yeah. I'll be locked in by the fourth quarter. So maybe if it's part of me wants it to be a bad game because I know I'm missing it. But another part of me knows I'll be able to see the fourth quarter. So, why not? I hope it's a good game.
Not only that, who knows Andy Reid like Doug? Who knows Andy's offense better than Doug? But go ahead.
I want to say something really funny. My phone's been, for some reason, the Hey Siri has been activating way too much. I don't know if I have dictation turned on my Apple Notes app because everything I just said was entered into my fucking notes. Sorry for cursing again. We'll end that. I owe you $5, Jeff.
That's 5 more, so you're up to 10 now. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is appropriate because I'm annoyed right now because it literally dictated everything I just wrote. It translated everything I just wrote on my notes app here. So yeah, I guess it has the opening to the show in the notes. Anyway, I digress. How you doing today, Joe? Why'd you choose these lyrics? Why this song?
Well, first of all, obviously because we lost a musical icon. I mean, and honestly, I mean, he was a lot of his stuff that he did solo was okay to me. It was okay. It was, I wasn't nuts over it, but anytime you lose a musical icon, which he was, you have to pay homage. The man was a great musician, but what I really admired about him was his songwriting, the words, because I'm a word man, and I really admired his songwriting. And what I also really admired about his work was he could take the ordinary minutia of every day, right? Our house, sitting on the front porch, 2 cats in the yard, and this kind of thing. He could take the ordinary minutia of every day and just phrase it in such a way with the words and the music that it was just a piece of art. Like that aforementioned song is a piece of art. I really admired that about him. Oh, go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah. Just want to say, cause I guess we're talking about it immediately. Why not? Because we got to open up the lyrics. Why not talk about David a little bit?
Sure.
He died at the age of 81. He had a scare because, the guy, he's dead now. We don't want to talk bad about him. We're not going to, but he had problems with drugs. It's nothing to be ashamed about. He had battles with drugs, but it may exasperated his medical problems because he had a long battle with hepatitis C and he needed a liver transplant in 94. And then he also had type 2 diabetes. And then in 2014, he had to cancel a tour because he had some health issues. So he battled some health issues, but he survived. He could have died in 94. He made it all the way to 2022. 2023, I should say. He just died. Still getting used to that. Whenever the new year starts, it always takes me a little bit to get used to the actual year, especially writing it down. I was like, wait, I just wrote 22. It's 23.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's really influenced by jazz and folk music, I think. I know jazz. He's very talented. He was inducted twice in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, twice, not just once, twice. He founded 2 great bands, the Byrds and Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Mm-hmm. Then he did some cool things that nobody really knows about. I mean, he's friends with Melissa Etheridge, or he knows her somehow. And she had a partner or girlfriend, I guess. And he donated his semen, so through artificial insemination.
Right.
He's responsible, I guess, for he's the father of their kid, I guess, technically. And then he just had little advice, is that whenever you have inspiration for songs or whatever you're doing, write it down immediately, even if it's just 2 words, because you might forget it. If you have something that comes to your mind that's really inspiring or it could be cool, write it down. He's lived a cool life. He's humble. He says he's no McCartney on bass. He admits that. And he spent time on an island with David Gilmour, the guy from Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that, people know, but just when someone dies, you find out these little facts about them. So, I know that Neil Young he was like a big part of like the Crosby, Stills and Nash, their big songs, but Crosby did contribute. He probably had his little input here and there, but he had some specific songs that he also wrote for that band. But he's a very talented guy, and it's unfortunate he died, but he could have died in 94. He lived all the way, 20, 30 more years he lived after that transplant, after his liver transplant. But Joe, what about him sticks out to you?
He was the glue that, and I'll be honest with you, I liken him to, well, let me just say a little bit as early, he was early with the Byrds, and he did, To Everything, Turn, there is a season, turn. It was sort of biblical lyrics there. That was really cool. Our House, obviously, we'll get back to that in a second. Teach Your Children, just really mellow stuff and really, really heady stuff and creative stuff that I like. But I liken him early to when we talked about the Eagles about a month ago. We talked about them early, and they were kind of mellow. They were great. They were great at what they did. They were mellow, and they were like a soft country rock band. And then all of a sudden, they were struck by lightning. And what I mean by that is the Eagles were struck by lightning, and Joe Walsh entered the scene. These guys, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, were struck by lightning when one Neil Young entered the scene. But what I give him credit for is to go acquire Neil Young and to keep him with them, because some of the stuff that I like the most that they did, that he was responsible for, David was after Neil Young came aboard. And we're going to get into, I got a separate lyrics and separate whole thing for Neil Young, but Neil Young is one of he's really just,
I've heard Neil Young interviewed on the Howard Stern show a couple times, and he's still cool. He seems cool as hell, even for an old guy. Even for an old guy, but he's still he has, old people get old and they get a little bit slower, and there's a lot of stories they repeat. He's been on the Stern show and he's very with it. And he's still pretty hip and cool,
And Sean, just an absolute, when I talk about the song and the lyrics, this is coming down the road. There's so many I can't count, but I'm going to pick one, but you could pick any of them. His songwriting, his singing wasn't like legendary, but his songwriting and his guitar playing, and he had to sing. It wasn't, it was an acquired taste, his voice. But once you got to know him and get used to his stuff, it was unbelievable. So we're going to push him aside for the moment. But David Crosby had enough charisma, some wits about him to go out and acquire Neil Young and keep him with those, guys. And they did some great stuff together. But again, I don't know how many decades, 4 decades at least, maybe 5 decades, a lot of stuff. But what I admire him for the most is his ability to write songs about the daily minutia of every day and make it just seem magical. Our house is a very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. And then it takes a twist. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy because of you. It's just like sitting on the back porch with a cup of coffee and watching a couple cats in the yard, and something very mundane like that he turns into a piece of art. And he is revered, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention him. I had something else lined up the other day for my lyrics, and as soon as this happened, I said, this moves out, he moves in, you have to do it. So rest in peace, Brother Dave. Good work, and your music will live on. So.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly say the reason that he said he wasn't as good as bass as McCartney is because I think McCartney plays the bass and sings at the same time. That's what, according to him, because he wrote an autobiography in 1988. He said trying to play bass and sing is like trying to dial 2 telephones at once with both hands. And he gives credit to McCartney. Yeah. He gives credit to Paul McCartney. He says, I can't do that. So basically he started playing rhythm guitar while he was vocalizing. So it's, he realized that some of his weaknesses, and he just played to his strengths. So it seemed like he was pretty intelligent.
When you can analyze yourself and be honest with yourself And we all do it with our jobs and say, I'm strong here, but I really need to pick it up over here and find some help to get better in these areas. When you can do that, it just shows a sign of just being developed a little more. We develop throughout our lifetime, not just between birth and 18 or 19. We develop all through our lifetime, and that shows the sign of a really well-developed person.
Yeah. And I just wanted to quickly, unless you have something more to say about David Crosby.
No, rest in peace.
Last episode we featured Rafe Fiennes, the actor, and I mispronounced his name every time I said his name. I thought it was, I didn't think I had to, I usually look up every name to make sure I could pronounce it correctly. I thought it was just Ralph Fiennes.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Then I had some friends busting my balls who were listening saying, dude, you're mispronouncing his name. I'm like, how do you know how to pronounce it? How do you know it's Rafe Fiennes? Because I looked it up. I was like, it's Rafe Fiennes. So his first name is Rafe. Like it looks like Ralph, but it's Rafe because he's British. I guess that's part of it. And then the last name is not Fiennes, it's Fiennes. So apologies to Rafe Fiennes. Hopefully he didn't, imagine you listen to the podcast, heard us mispronounce his name and totally just like burned us, publicly. But yeah, we're not that big time. It's good to be accurate. We're not that big time yet. So I don't think we're getting any flack yet. So anyway, I digress. Joe, what's been going on with you? I heard there was like a Good Samaritan story or something you were telling me about.
It's a Good Samaritan story that just made it made me water up a little bit. This happened the other day. I saw it on Action News. This is WPVI in Philadelphia. If anyone wants to check it, they can go to WPVI.com in Philadelphia, Action News, and just type in Good Samaritan. But Mr. John Burrell, B-E-R-L III, John Burrell III, owner of Uncle John's Barbecue Stand in Claymont, Delaware, he snapped pictures on his phone the other day. The pics were of a man taking off his boots and giving them to a homeless man who had no shoes at all to wear out in the cold. So this guy in the middle of right in front of a convenience store, saw that there was a homeless guy there with no shoes on his feet. He asked them where they were because they didn't have any. He asked him what size. He says, you know what? He took his boots off, and this was being filmed by this John Burrell guy. So Mr. Burrell then posted these pics on his Facebook page, and it was shared over and over and over again. It went viral. That John Burrell was the guy filming this. Unbeknownst to the Good Samaritan, whose name is Jawan Jones of Wilmington, Delaware. He's 24 years old. He did not realize that anything was being filmed. They caught up to him and he said, quote, "My mom always used to say, be grateful for what you have because you don't have to have anything," which I like that. Mama always said, be grateful for what you have because you don't have to have anything. And that's a good way to look at things, and he also quoted a mentor coach of his, because he was a high school athlete too, Jawan. One of his coaches and mentors said, quote, "If you can help just one person, you never know. That person can take that blessing and help someone else," end quote. I just thought that was fantastic. I encourage anyone who likes stories like these, go Channel 6, WPVIPhiladelphia.com, actionnews.com, and just type in Good Samaritan and you'll find it. I mean, it's really it was a good story.
I'm playing devil's advocate really quick.
Why?
There's no possibility.
Why would you want to do that?
I don't want to play devil because I've seen stuff like this happen where the guy someone happens to be filming and it's all staged. And then they create a GoFundMe for the homeless person because a girl. This is on my top of my mind.
I saw that story too,
because this is the opposite of what you said. Basically, a girl did the opposite. She made it seem like this homeless guy had a horrible story. They started a GoFundMe and they stole a bunch of people's money. Basically, I'm not saying that this is the same. I'm 99% sure it's an accurate story and it's true. It's a Good Samaritan. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, hopefully, it's not something that was staged. Hopefully, it was just the guy happened to be taping and he saw this good deed. And there's that, but it's just the world we live in where so many people scheming, you know what I mean? It's one of those things.
And I have to confess to you, Sean, for a quick second, I had the same thought, like, what's going on here? But there's no GoFundMe page whatsoever at all, and we can't let it crossed my mind because it should always cross your mind, but I really don't think it's the case here. And as evidence, they're not asking for anything, so. And these guys they brought them together and they both did the handshake and a little hug, the shoulder bump and everything. And the one guy was so impressed with the other. And I don't think it was the case here, but yeah, I think that one story that we all saw with the couple that gave the $20 or something to a homeless. I forget what it was, but it turns out that the couple, they were scheming and scamming, because anytime there's a GoFundMe page, then you could, not doesn't mean anything, but it's then that at least you may start to wonder this. Go check it out. They're not asking for anything. If the story's over, it was just really.
I mean, I'd be willing to donate the guy. We could all donate shoes to the guy, right? He could have a lifetime supply of shoes, so he never has to go without shoes again.
It was just one action that was taking place, and it was just the idea of, hey, pay it forward, each one, reach one, that kind of thing. And go check it out. But I don't think it was anything like that. But I can't blame you for at least for a second.
It's sad. It's sad that it's sad that I even have to ask that question, right? Look, what kind of world are we living in? We're so cynical. We're not even, because we live in a world where there's so many like disturbing people who just do bad things. So it's like your first thing, it's like, okay.
Mm-hmm. And like I told you, I even for a second, Sean, the other day, I thought, man, I wonder what is it? But it's really, really, I believe it really, really looked genuine. And the fact that no one's asking for anything. The guy got his shoes. The guy was impressed. He was almost moved to tears. He filmed it. And if you see the interview, they actually show you they interview these guys. It doesn't look that way at all. But you're right. For a quick second, I think we should. Anytime someone calls you on the phone and you don't know who they are, have your antennas up. You don't know. But this was a good story, Sean. I think it was real. I really do.
Exactly. All right. So you had something else you want to talk about. What was that?
Yeah. Ever since I was about 8 years old, I had older siblings. So I'm talking about, like, if I was 8 years old, it's 1972. As far as back as I can remember, my teenage siblings, when I was, 7, 8 years old, we're talking today. Jerry Blavat. Oh, he's going to be here. He's going to be there. Jerry Blavat was a legendary DJ in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, South Jersey area. And his nickname used to be the Geeter, and he used to call himself the Geeter with the heater, the boss with the hot sauce, this kind of thing. He was really, really just a legendary, great DJ in Philadelphia. And in the summertime, he would be down in Margate. It was a club down there. I've been there. It's called Memories in Margate. And he was known for playing the 50s, 60s, and 70s all the way through. But it was great. Every Saturday night you could go out and you can hear some doo-wop stuff and this and that, and Dion the Belmonts and so forth, Dion DiMucci and the Belmonts and Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, or whatever it may be, the Temptation, any of that music, the oldies music he would play. And I can remember around early 1990s, laughing it up with a couple of buddies of mine, because Jerry Blavat used to do a show on Sunday nights on the radio. And I never really had a chance, because Sunday nights was not a night that I would like listen to music. Friday and Saturday was, but I digress. During the week, you would get commercials for that show that he would do on Sunday night. And he would be like, ooh, been a bop. This is the jock. Don't forget Sunday at 6:00. And it was just really funny. And I would say that to a couple of guys I worked with, and I'd like, and then, okay. And one guy told me one time he was riding down the road out in, like, going to Exton, PA to go to that, this was I was in clothing retail. One guy was going to his store in Exton, PA, and he's riding down the road, and he heard on the radio, that, ooh, been a bop, this is the job. And he started cracking up laughing. He almost drove off the side of the road. It was just one of those things. Jerry Blavat, and the way he could rhyme, and the boss with the sauce and the Geeter with the heater. He was not only a DJ.
What type of music did he play?
He would play pretty much 50s, 60s, and 70s. But that stuff's, I'm talking about in the 80s, 90s, and that stuff was still, and it still is, really desirable for a big crowd. But Memories in Margate, he was down there. He used to play down there in the summertime. He would play over at the Coral Reef over in Mount Ephraim. He was legendary in Philadelphia and South Jersey. He was a part of the fabric of our generation, is what I'm trying to say. So we lost a big one.
Geeter with the heater, because I looked up Geeter to try to figure out what Geeter is, and you don't want to know what popped up on, because there's something called Urban Dictionary. Dictionary.
If it's really not flattering to him, wasn't the definition. So
I know it's not his.
Please don't tell me on air what
I know. I know for a fact it's not his definition, but when you see the definition of Urban Dictionary of what a Geeter is, you're going to be like, okay.
Well, I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. But that's it. We lost a great one, Sean. That's all.
Yeah, no, because honestly, like I didn't even know who the guy was. Because Howard, Howard Stern's my main guy, and he always mentions like these local DJs who he knows. One of the guys stands out to me is this guy named Kid Chris. He's still
Hmm.
doing his thing, I guess. He's DJing around the country somewhere, but um, I don't know if he's ever mentioned Jerry Blavat. I have to like now have to really pay attention because if he ever does, when
On,
did he die? He just died. He just died
he
this
just
week.
died recently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe next week because Stern's on back Monday. I think maybe he'll mention it
Well,
possibly.
I know if you walked up to him and say, Howard, do you know a guy like in Philadelphia, Jerry Blavat? I guarantee you he'll say, yeah. Now, whether he will come out and say that I don't know. I don't know. But if you walked up to him and said, Howard, this the guy named Jerry Blavat in Philadelphia, he'd go, yeah, the Geeter with and I know he would know. But it was just one of those things. I mean, you're a North Jersey kid. You're right up, nestled up against New York. And so maybe you wouldn't know. Now, if you were from this area, you'd know exactly who I'm talking about. And there may be a guy or two or a woman or two or an entertainment or two up there in your neck of the woods that passes away some point, and I won't know who it is, but that's just my very point. It
Yeah.
was just our area, but he was very special. He was like our Uncle Jerry, that's all. So
I'm
rest
glad
in peace.
I'm glad our show is able to celebrate him a little bit. He sounds like a cool guy.
He was. You'd love him, and I'll show you videos of him. And he was just always fun, always upbeat, and and he was always with the fancy hats and stuff. He was the definition of cool, and he loved his music, he loved his work, and he loved the Philadelphia area. I say Philadelphia area. When you say Philadelphia, anything, it's not just the city; it's
Yeah.
the Delaware Valley.
I mean, if he
It's Delaware Valley.
yeah, if all I know is that if I found out he's a Villanova fan, then he's the man in my book. That's all I know.
He
Um,
would not be against Villanova, that I can tell you.
I want to talk a little bit about because I have an AMC movie subscription, so I'm seeing everything that's in theaters pretty much. I just want to give a quick update on what I saw recently. So Tuesday I saw The Broker. It's a South Korean film about basically it's about a baby box where mothers who have kids, instead of having an abortion, they have a baby, they drop it off this baby box, and then they know that the baby's going to be okay. And then a broker basically brokers a deal to get good parents. They interview the parents and make sure they're good parents.
Where's this baby box?
It's a fictional movie. It's a fictional movie.
Okay.
So the baby box is somewhere in South Korea. But anyway, the movie was all in subtitles, and it was an okay movie. Honestly, it was kind of boring to me. The story was good, but it was just kind of boring. It dragged on, and then it also takes a toll on you when you're reading for 2 hours. You're used to like just listening. So I'm not saying it was a bad movie because I think objectively it's probably a good movie, but it's a little bit boring for my taste. And then the other movie I saw last night was called Missing. And that's basically a sequel, except it has nothing to do with the first one. The first one was called Searching, but it's the same type of movie, and it's a cool concept. Basically, this girl, her mom goes on vacation with her boyfriend, and the mom goes missing, and the whole movie you see through the eyes of the daughter. And it's how she's trying to find her mom because it's really stressful. It's like, how do I go about locating a missing person in a foreign country? I think it was like Colombia or something like that. And basically you see whatever she searches for on her laptop, whatever she searches for on her phone, whoever she talks to on FaceTime. And just one example is there's a site called TaskRabbit. TaskRabbit, you hire people to do the random tasks, to fix electronics, to, handymen basically, or just to pick something up for you from a store. It's called TaskRabbit. I think it's a real thing. It was in the movie. I'm pretty sure it's a real thing though, but she contacts TaskRabbit in Colombia, their version of TaskRabbit. It's called like Task Ninja or something like that. Anyway, she locates a guy who he goes to check security footage before they delete because the footage of the security of the hotel is deleted in 48 hours. So she wants to make sure it doesn't get deleted. So she goes on TaskRabbit and she contacts this Colombian guy. There's a language barrier. So it shows her on the computer doing the translation from English to Spanish. And it's just very it's tough to describe unless you've seen Searching, the first one. The first one had John Cho in it. He's a famous Asian actor, Deborah Messing, but this one had Nia Long. But it's just a very well-made movie because it's you're so engrossed and you can't look away from the screen. You're like, how is she, what's she doing next? Because it's not people just talking and you can hear what they're saying. If you look away real quick, you have to really see what she's doing. You have to pay attention closely. She's putting all these sticky notes on her laptop. And they're showing surveillance of different public cameras in Colombia. And anyway, I don't want to talk too much about it, but It was a very good movie. I really enjoyed it. One of the best movies I've seen recently. Very unique because the first one, Searching, was very unique. So I highly recommend Missing. And then The Broker, I'm just saying it's kind of boring. So those are the movies I saw recently.
Sometimes I don't like. I know you're right, and I respect that. But a lot of people like those kind of movies. But sometimes I don't like the kind of movies where I have to feel like I have to get a notepad out and start taking notes.
No, it wasn't. Honestly,
it's like I want to kick back and relax, not take
a
class.
It wasn't like to the point where I needed a notepad, right?
Right.
But it was one of those things where, like, if you there's a lot of like hidden clues on the screen. So if you look very closely. At certain little things, even like videos of like old family videos. She's searching through her old family videos for clues and stuff. Mm-hmm. You just got to pay attention. You don't need, it's not going to, I wasn't stressed out. I wasn't thinking it was like class. I was in class and there was like a quiz.
Because some movies are like that. It's like, holy God, what did I miss? I missed that little thing. Okay. That kind of, so, but it's cool. I
think you actually really enjoy it for sure. I mean, I think you should check out Searching first. And then we'll talk about it in the show, maybe, if you have a chance to check it out. Because, like, you'll be like, oh, man, that was really cool. That was really unique because there's not any other movies like these movies, Searching and Missing.
Yeah, I'll just have to make sure I got a little more energy for that kind of, take an extra coffee or something before it.
Unless you have something else to say, Joe.
No. What were you going to say before we do what?
Because we're doing an actor this week. Before we do our actor, I wanted, because we did a lot of like, we did David Crosby's kind of like life story bio. We did your DJ, Jerry Blavat's bio. We're not going to do the actor right now. Let's do the Snapple Fact first. So I got the Snapple Fact ready. You ready, Joe?
Okay. Yep.
All right. So this Snapple Fact is Snapple Fact 1525. It's the tiny pocket in jeans was made for pocket watches. You know that those little tiny pockets in your jeans?
I use it every day. I use it. I have a couple little things that I put in there.
Yeah,
I really do. It makes it
really
easier
handy.
to reach.
It separates what's in the big pocket from the little pocket. It's
exactly.
I'm happy they still have them on jeans because I use those too. You there?
Yeah.
There was like silence for a second.
I coughed. I'm sorry. You caught me. I coughed.
Yeah, we're usually talking over each other. So I'm like, wait, why isn't he like trying to interrupt me now?
Yeah, I coughed. So I had to cough.
But basically the story with the tiny pocket was it dates back to the Levi's jeans, their first ever pair of jeans, which hit the market in 1879. And I guess a lot of people had pocket watches and they felt like, why not? Let's add a little pocket for pocket watches,
Yeah. My pop was born in 1928. So, I mean, it's by 48, he's 20 years old, and he had a pocket watch he carried, and he always carried one all his days. He carried a little pocket watch.
And the funny thing about this whole, because I found that Snapple Fact, I just found that Snapple Fact today, but before I found the Snapple Fact, this is all random. Before I went because I go on the Snapple Fact website and I do like randomize and I find one that's cool. But someone had sent me a funny meme today. Memes are like funny photos with little captions. It's really funny stuff. Mm-hmm. I sent you it today. I don't know if you got it. It's a picture of that little pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Very few people know this, but the little pocket on your jeans is for your paycheck after taxes.
Yeah, I didn't really find that too amusing, but I like the Snapple Fact.
Yeah, but it was just coincidence because literally I went on the Snapple Fact website and this comes up right away. I'm like, holy crap! Like, what a coincidence, because I sent that meme to a couple people,
right.
And it's one of those things because people hate paying taxes and just a joke about having that little pocket. Every time you get paid each week, you're like, where'd the rest of my money go? Taxes took your money. That's where it went.
Yeah, taxes did, but do you want your potholes fixed? Do you want your your snow plow to come around and remove snow? Everyone hates taxes until something happens and then they need something.
Oh, you're right.
It is, but I don't want to get real, but it was that's a cute little thing. It's a cute, because we all like to joke, but when it comes down to it, okay, you don't want any taxes? Okay. Good luck, with all your other stuff, all the stuff that you want. It's not free, so it's got to come from somewhere. But it was clever. It's a nice little thing. So which actor are we doing? I'm going to do.
You chose the actor. His name is Robert Duvall.
Yes, sir.
I know that's the right pronunciation. I'm pretty sure about it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have any problem with that one.
I'll introduce him real quick, and I'll let you talk about a little about your favorites. So he was born in 1931. He's still alive. He's going to be 100 years old in 8 years, I guess. He's born in his birthday. We actually just turned. His birthday was recent. He was born January 5th. So happy belated birthday, Robert Duvall. He majored in, he was born in San Diego. He
Mhm.
majored in drama at Principia College in Illinois. Then he studied acting in New York City. And here's a fun fact. He roomed while he was studying acting in New York City with Dustin Hoffman.
Wow,
So that's a cool fun fact.
that is neat.
He started off in theater. He was a stage actor in the 60s before he started, then he started getting cast in some TV shows. He was in some big time show in 1960s called Playhouse 90. This was some popular, it sounds like an SNL type show or something, but he seems like a cool guy. I mean, I watched some of his interviews on YouTube, and they're asking him how he plays some of these like characters, some of these asshole characters. He says it's all percentages. Sometimes it's 80% asshole and 20% good guy, and maybe opposite. Sometimes the next day it's 80% good guy, 20% a-hole.
Right.
And then he says his favorite role was playing Joseph Stalin in the movie Stalin, about the Russian like dictator guy.
Oh, yeah, what a piece
And
of
he says
work
the
he
key to
was.
playing like horrible people like that is find their vulnerability, because you want the audience to relate. Because a lot of these movies they'll have bad guys, but you're like, they're human beings, so you want to relate with them a little bit. You're like, how are they? They're still human, right?
Yeah.
So that was cool. I watched, but what do you think about the guy? Why'd you choose Robert?
Robert Duvall. Well, I I'm gonna let me just put it this way. I have seen him do numerous things. He's always been a cool customer. There haven't been too many people like him, and he's been around. Like I said, the two big things I look for is versatility. He has it, and I look for longevity. He has it.
So basically, he's Ed Harris Jr.
Well, I would
Okay,
say,
Robert. No, honestly, Robert Duvall is a big time actor. Nothing
right.
against Ed Harris, but
Yeah,
Robert
please.
Duvall he's in a whole different league, I think.
And listen, I was thinking about doing Ed this week, but this just kind of came up. We're going to get to Ed because Ed is one of our finest, and I told you that. So there's nothing humorous about that, my friend. Let me go through my top five. This is top.
I just interrupt you real quick. I'm just laughing because because we always talk about
Oh,
Ed Harris.
I'm heckling
We're
you.
gonna have him. We're gonna have him on the show one of these days. I promise. I'm not laughing at Ed Harris. I'm laughing at the idea that we talk about this man constantly. He's gonna be on the show
I
one of
love
these
him.
days. I'm telling
Absolutely
you.
love him. And he really is the poster boy for what motivated us to do this piece, is that actor that's he's not a B actor, but he's not an A actor. He's sort of like a B plus. He's like right in that, so he is. So all due respect to Ed Harris, he's always on the tip of our tongues. But let me talk about Robert Duvall. And for some of you folks who don't know him by name, here you go. Punch him up, Google him, and the minute you see his face, you're going to say, "Oh, that guy." That's what we want. So number five. Number five is he was in Apocalypse Now. Now, Apocalypse Now isn't for everybody, right? But it's an acquired taste. But who could forget? I love the smell of napalm in the morning. That kind of thing. He played a lieutenant in Apocalypse Now, which was fantastic. It was a little eerie, but there was nothing about Vietnam that wasn't eerie. Number four, he played the part of a Marine sergeant who was very egotistical, very hard-headed, as a lot of drill sergeants would be. But it was a character called the Great Santini, was his last name, Santini. And it just showed you a lot of this guy's home life, and how his Marine personality sometimes was good with his home life, sometimes conflicted with his home life, and some little bit of alcoholism involved. And it was actually a good story. The Great Santini. Okay, that was number four. Number three was a movie.
You just coughed. You just coughed, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Number three was a movie he did with Sean Penn, and it was in the late 1980s. I don't know exactly when it was, but it was called Colors. And he and Sean Penn were beat cops in L.A., and they had to tangle with the Bloods and the Crips and get along with people, and how to find out here, and how to manage the streets. And it was really a fantastic movie. I think there was a Latin girl in it that I was really let's say I was really smitten with her. I think her name was Maria Conchita Alonso. Um, no, I really no.
It's not, you just I'm cracking up because it's like, it's just one of those things you knew the name
Yeah.
off the tip of your tongue.
Well, because you know why she was a hot number like in the mid '80s to the mid '90s, Maria Conchita Alonso. But I digress. Robert Duvall was a beat cop, and he was showing the rookie Sean Penn the ropes of how to survive day in and day out as a
Can I just
beat cop.
interrupt you really quick? Just because this
Sure.
is important. Do you think that the movie Colors inspired Training Day?
Maybe maybe to some degree, but maybe to some degree. That's hard. That's hard to.
Because you got me thinking of because we talked about Denzel a couple episodes. You got me thinking of Denzel and Ethan Hawke in the car. The type of dynamic between Sean Penn and Duvall.
Yeah, it could have inspired it, Sean, but the difference is that Robert Duvall's character he wasn't like anal retentive by the rule like cop, but he was pretty much a good guy and a good cop. But he was trying to show Sean Penn, the new cop, to loosen up a little bit, and where you had to make concessions, and you pick and choose your battles, and you do things this way, and you get along with these folks, and you get along with those folks. But he wasn't as unethical and as 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 nefarious as Denzel Washington in that other movie. So number 3 was Colors. 2. And you know me, I'm not a Civil War buff, because buff indicates that you know a whole lot about something. I haven't reached that level. I'm a Civil War enthusiast, but Robert Duvall played the part of Robert E. Lee. Now, I know Robert E. Lee was with the other side, and I know he was a rebel, and I know he was with the South, but Robert E. Lee, he even had reservations about, see, these guys were conflicted with this war. Sometimes they were going brother against brother and some cousin against cousin. But there's a story of Robert E. Lee after a battle, and he was on his horse. His horse's name was Traveler, and he sees a Union soldier that's laying, and he's suffering, and he's almost dead. And Robert Lee this is a Union soldier, right? This is the enemy. Robert Lee gets off his horse and goes over to him and consoles him a little bit, and puts his hand on his cheek and talks about, son, blah, 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 I hope you're feeling better, son, and blah, blah, and he gets back. This is a true story. So sometimes we consider the other side and so forth. So when people hear Robert E. Lee, sometimes they, Robert Lee was a man, and he was conflicted, but he had to stay true to the South because that's where he was born, and he felt like he was doing the right thing. Be that as it may, Robert Duvall played the part of Robert E. Lee in the movie Gods and Generals, and it was a 3-hour movie, and I loved every minute of it. And man, did he play that role. That was number 2. Number one, this is what I didn't want to say it earlier, but when you said what inspired you to pick how did you ever learn about Robert Duvall? Robert Duvall played the part of Tom Hagen, the attorney for the Corleone family in the original Godfather, and the Godfather 2, but the Godfather 1 is my number 1, and Tom Hagen, the consigliere for the Corleone family in that movie. He was as smooth as silk. If anyone's ever seen that movie, I mean, when he goes over, one of my favorite scenes is when he's talking to that movie producer, trying to get that Johnny a role, and he's talking to that movie producer, and the movie producer starts screaming back at him, "You go tell Don Corleone he's not going to muscle me," and he's screaming at the top of his lungs. And the whole time, Duvall is sitting there at the table, stirring his tea very gently and just very calm. And at the end of this guy's 2-minute rant, he says, "No problem, sir." And he grabs his hat and he says, "Do you mind if I use your telephone to call a taxi? I need to get back because Don Corleone is a man who insists on hearing bad news immediately." Just like that. And it was just as smooth as silk. I mean, the other guys, he's turning stuff over. He's yelling, he's screaming. His face is purple, and he just very calm. So, but that's what he was. He was in that role. That role He was as smooth as silk, and he was calm. The ironic thing was he was a lawyer for a crime family, and he knew the stuff that was going on, but he felt allegiance to them because he knew them since he was a little kid and so forth. And it was just a really interesting role. But that's what really first got my eyes like, wow, look at this guy, look at this actor. And then I started noticing him and everything. And really, I just named 5. Everything's subjective. He's been in so much, it's not even funny. Great actor.
I have to see. I haven't seen Gods and Generals, and I've seen like I pride myself on seeing everything. I call myself a film buff for sure, but I haven't seen Gods and Generals, and I haven't seen The Great Santini. So
both great movies.
Top 5. I got to check those out, man.
I would say first go see Gods and Generals, because and I know you like interesting stuff. Once you really stick your head into the Civil War a little more, my God, are we so lucky that we had Abraham Lincoln at that time, because you don't know how close we came. And I'm going to tell you, it was tough. It was tough. You had some states where you had cousin against cousin, and some even brother against brother. It was really tough. Anyway, we came through it. We had Abraham Lincoln, and that's a whole different, we'll talk about him some night. What trials and tribulations he faced. This man faced unbelievable sorrow and trials and tribulations, and he was still able to power through. And thank God we had him at just the right time. Otherwise, this could be totally different. But anyway, I digress.
We'll have one of these shows, man. We'll have like a Civil War segment. Maybe we'll have that, like, occasionally, just little hints and little.
That'll be after you and I take a ride out to Gettysburg and walk around and spend the day out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been there I went to Gettysburg for a soccer tournament. The funny part about we'll continue talking about Robert Duvall, but the funny part about it, you told that story about that DJ, Jerry Blavat, and you said your friend almost drove off the road because he was laughing at what you said.
He exaggerated a little, but he was laughing.
When I was in Gettysburg for a youth soccer tournament as a kid, we were driving in one of my teammates' dad's car, and there was a really attractive woman walking on the side of the road.
That'll do it. Yeah.
The car started swerving towards the side of the road. We started cracking up like, what are you doing? And we know that girl's right. We're young. We're like, I think we're like 12. And we're like, he's driving off the friggin' road for this girl, but you unlock that memory, the Gettysburg and then driving off the road. So I digress. But, Robert Duvall, man, my impression of the guy is he's super talented. And what I forgot about him, he was in a really famous movie. My mother loves this movie, To Kill a Mockingbird. In 1962, he played Boo Radley.
I wanted to mention that, and I forgot. Thank you so much because To Kill a Mockingbird was a movie based on the novel. I mean, you're talking about really, really tremendous art there. And Gregory Peck played the lawyer, but Duvall played the role of
a really
introverted,
introverted kind of misunderstood guy, and he ends up kind of being like a hero type of thing. So.
Exactly right. They were trying to paint this on him because he was a little different. They were trying to corner him and frame him for this because it was convenient. And as it turns out, he was the hero.
Yeah.
He was the good Samaritan in the thing.
I have so many movies. I'm not going to talk about every movie, but let me just go down my list. Then I'll just pick out like one or two to quickly talk about.
We don't have to rush, buddy. Do what you gotta do.
We're not rushing. So he was just in a new Adam Sandler movie on Netflix called Hustle. It's a really good basketball movie. I think the guy, the real NBA player who played the actor in the movie, played the basketball player, but he acts in this movie. I don't know why I mentioned him, but Juan Hernan Gomez or something like that. But anyway, he was in that. He was in The Judge in 2014. He was in Crazy Heart with Jeff Bridges in 2009. Obviously, he was in The Godfather 1 and 2. He was in Four Christmases with Vince Vaughn in 2008. He was in Kicking and Screaming in 2005. He was in John Q in 2002. He was in The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger in 2000. He was in Gone in 60 Seconds in 2000 with Nicolas Cage.
He's been
around. He was in Civil Action with John Travolta in 1998. He was in Sling Blade in 1996 with Billy Bob Thornton. He was in Phenomenon in 1996 with John Travolta. He was in one of my all-time favorite. I'll talk about this in a second. Falling Down. I believe Michael Douglas in 1993. That's a great movie. Yeah,
I love that one. Yeah.
It's one of the first DVDs I ever had.
I need my breakfast at 11 o'clock. Yeah.
Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise in 1990. He was in Network. Remember that movie Network?
Mm-hmm. The Apostle.
He was in that. That's another movie. I might have saw The Apostle. I have to check if I did. He was in The Conversation. One of my favorite movies of Gene Hackman movies of all time to me is The Conversation. I love that movie. But so yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit quickly. Falling Down with Michael Douglas was a phenomenal movie. It's like, oh my, the whole movie, you're on the edge of your seat. Like, what the hell is what's this guy going to do? He's a stressed out guy and just walks out of his car one day in traffic, and you follow him through his whole day.
It was a great movie.
And I believe there's a scene with Robert Duvall, and it's like a birthday cake or something like that. I got to rewatch that movie. That movie was amazing. But Robert Duvall always seems like a very unassuming, nice guy.
Very measured. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was in the movie Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell. I saw that in movies where Will Ferrell coaches a youth soccer team. That movie was friggin' hilarious. And I think Robert Duvall played I don't know if he played Will Ferrell's dad or a rival coach. I'm pretty sure I had to rewatch. If he played a rival coach, whatever the rival coach was in that movie was really funny. But what I'm saying is this man these are all movies that I've seen and that are really great movies. He's in all these movies. So just the pedigree of movies that he's in. And I didn't even have Gods and Generals and The Great Santini on my list. So he's been, he's born in 1930. He's been active for a long time. So you're going to run into some stuff accidentally. You're going to be in some hits, but this man is in a lot of great movies,
Yep.
And I'm glad you featured him. Seems like an awesome guy, interesting guy, well-spoken, got a sense of humor, honest, and he could take on a lot of different roles. He's very
versatile. Yeah.
Versatile is the word for it. Yep. Exactly. So shout out to Robert Duvall. And he's our guy today for actor. So we did Snapple Fact early. Usually I think Snapple Fact comes after our actor. Did that early. I think we should go on to the fake versus real news story. I think this week we're switching it up. We got Joe. You're gonna get, from my understanding, Joe, I usually do two fake and one real. You're gonna give me two real and one fake.
Yeah, I want you to pick out the fake. So find the fake out of these three stories. One of them is fake. Okay. So story number one is: members of the FBI and CIA reveal a foiled plot by Russian aristocrats to assassinate Vladimir Putin. Approximately 9 different Russian aristocrats were discovered plotting the aforementioned carbon monoxide death of Putin. It was an unfoiled plot, and it was in October of 2022, but it was recently leaked. Okay, that's one. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Next story. This is from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A 12-year-old boy, an avid fisherman, with his family visiting from Massachusetts, visiting from Boston. So Fort Lauderdale, 12-year-old boy from Boston visiting Fort Lauderdale with his family. They were out in the family boat about a mile off the coast when they threw out some bait. Suddenly, they felt a real powerful pull on the line. On the other end of the line was an 11-foot, several hundred-pound great white shark. They almost dropped over. Now, they dragged it in. He obviously had some help after that. I mean, you're talking about a monster on the other end of the. They were able to. He, with a couple of adults, were able to sustain the hold on it, and they dragged it all the way in to within 100 yards of shore. Then some experts came out, like marine biologists came out, removed the line from the shark's mouth, tagged it, and sent it back to sea. That's story number 2. This is story number 3. An Arizona town, a small Arizona town, Rio Verde Foothills is the name of the town. Rio Verde Foothills. They're a town without water. They share water access with nearby Scottsdale, but a major drought led Scottsdale to hold its own water and tell them to go fend for themselves. This 1,000-person community, Rio Verde Foothills, was so distraught over this that they are suing Scottsdale, Arizona for being cut off.
Wait, so say that again. So the water was cut off in one place and other people got the water?
Yeah, there's a small town outside of Scottsdale, 1,000 people. It's called Rio Verde Hills. And they get water from Scottsdale. That's how they get their water. And normally it's not a problem, but because of a recent drought, Scottsdale said, we can't give you any more water right now. We don't have enough. You don't have any water to spare. Can't give you any. So they left them to fend for themselves. You got guys going to carrying water tanks and doing this and doing that. And so Rio Verde Foothills, the small town that's being cut off from the water by Scottsdale, is filing a lawsuit about it.
Okay. All right. So you get a lot of details here. So even the fake one, even whatever one's fake has a lot of details. So interesting. You put some effort into really trying to fool me here, Joe. Okay. Let's see what we got. I believe a lot of people want to kill Vladimir Putin. There's no doubt in my mind that he's got plenty of people, and who was trying to, the aristocrats wanted to kill him, and the FBI and CIA.
As many as 9 different Russian aristocrats were discovered plotting the aforementioned carbon
monoxide. Russians. Okay. Yeah. So I think that one's, let me just go through my thought process. Don't say if I'm right or wrong yet. We'll narrow it down in a second. I'm so tempted while you're talking is to Google some keywords and get the answers, but I'm not doing it. I'm telling you, I'm not doing it. I want this because I'm having fun. The whole time you're talking, I'm fucking sorry. I'm cursing again. I cut myself off though.
$15.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole time I'm like, I'm smiling because I'm like, man, he's trying to really beat me here.
All right.
Got some details.
What do you got?
All right. So Putin sounds very plausible. The Great White sounds a little bit far fetched. You're given like real specific towns and stuff, the Boston, the Fort Lauderdale. And then the one with the water, because I went to law school for a little bit and I learned about like land use rights and water laws and how you can do stuff with the water and underground, who owns the water. So I think the water one and Putin is real. I think the Great White one is false.
All right. You would be incorrect, sir. Sorry.
Wow. Which one? Yeah. Which one was it? The water one fake?
No, I made this up. So I made up the one about the Russian, the FBI, CIA.
You see what I'm saying? Though that one's so I guarantee, like even though it might not be.
I swear to you, I made it up.
No, I know, but like it's one of those things where like, yeah, because Russian probably doesn't like to leak a lot of their secrets, but it's plausible that there's so many people who want to kill Putin, right?
But that's why I had to get something that you're going to bite on. I couldn't say something about a boy takes a slingshot and
First, I was overthinking it because you gave so many details about the Great White one. I should have probably thought, okay, you gave a lot of details about the Putin one too. You said 9 aristocrats. I'm like, okay, that was specific too. Like,
Yeah, that's why I threw it in there. And you could punch this in. You punch in Rio Verde Foothills, Arizona, and the water thing.
All right, so at least I got at least I was right. Like I got one right. I got the water one right.
Well, the water one is true.
That's what I'm saying. I picked up the Great Wall. I said the Great Wall.
Yeah, you did. You're right. Because you said, yes, you did, Sean. I'm sorry. So
the water one, So the water one's true. So I got that right. And
I mixed up. Yeah.
It's funny you talk about great white sharks and Putin because isn't Putin kind of like a great white shark, kind of?
That's insulting a great white shark, really. Putin is one of the most disgusting human beings that's ever walked this planet. When I look at what's happening to those poor people over there in the Ukraine, I have no sympathy for Putin whatsoever. I think he's the most vile form of life there is. And I'm telling you, I love Jesus Christ and I'm forgiving. But if Putin drops dead today, it doesn't faze me a bit. But go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to say, Vladimir Putin, because he's known for like having people killed. Please don't try to kill me and Joe. Please.
Yeah. Vladimir.
Okay. So
stay away, man.
Speaking of, I guess we'll continue with speaking of great whites and monsters. It's our Bryan Kohberger segment. We're thinking about renaming this to the Idaho killing segment instead of using his name constantly, but it's everywhere in the news, can't avoid it. Yeah. So just quick update on what's going on. He apparently was messaging victims on Insta. He was DMing, they call it direct message. You try to slide in the girl's DMs if you're interested in them, and he overdid it. This guy, I think he was way older than them too. These girls are college, students. This guy, he's a grad student. I think he's like 28 or something. I don't know, but he was DMing the girls constantly weeks before the murders. So there's a clear intent that he knew who they were, and he was he was messaging them. So that's that's kind of that's not going to help his case at all. We don't want his case to be helped in any way, especially if he's guilty.
Right.
So, that's a good thing. It's going against him. And apparently there's a theory that it might be a serial killer. He might have done this before. He might have killed other girls.
Oh my God.
That's being floated out there. They're going to, I wouldn't be surprised if, they unearth some other murders wherever he's been in the past, and who knows, but there's a theory that he's a serial killer, because a lot of serial killers leave a calling card behind. They're so arrogant. They purposely leave something behind that's their calling card. That's their signature. I think like the Zodiac killer, had something like that. But a lot of these killers have a calling card. It's like their signature. This is how it's that specific killer. They want to be remembered.
Yeah.
And he might have left the knife sheath intentionally, because he left the thing that covers the knife. Why would he leave that? Why would he be so careful about getting everything else and leaving that? That doesn't make a lot of sense. And apparently police collected possible, because I think they had like a dog or something. That the Idaho students had a dog or a pet, I think. They collected a possible animal hair strand, so that might be key evidence. So we got some new things every day. There's new things coming out. So if anybody gets sick to their stomach reading about this guy or looking at his picture, and you don't want to look at the guy because he's a monster potentially. I should preface that. Imagine he's innocent. I highly doubt he's not. I highly doubt he's innocent, but imagine he is. Sorry if he is, but he's probably not. So people could get some updates from our show, just little things,
Yeah.
That leads me into our next segment, current events. And the current event this week is about Alec Baldwin. He's going to be charged with involuntary manslaughter. If you remember, Joe, he killed a cinematographer on the set of Rust, a movie called Rust.
Yeah,
you heard all about this.
He accidentally killed her.
Well, that's why I got charged with involuntary manslaughter, right? So involuntary manslaughter, it's an unlawful killing that was unintentionally caused as a result of wanton or reckless conduct that the defendant engaged in. So, it's pretty clear, unintentionally, keyword unintentionally, because nobody thinks that Alec Baldwin like some people do, but nobody, I don't think he actually wanted to kill her, right? So unintentional. And then also the other part of this law, it's an unlawful killing that results during the commission of a dangerous battery by a defendant. So I don't know if this second one applies to him, because it's unlawful killing that resulted during the commission of a dangerous battery. So where's the dangerous battery? He had a gun that he didn't know was loaded, and he pointed at her and he shot. So I don't know if they can, because a lot of times in law, I forget what they call them. They're both, because I was in law school, I should know this right away. They're both like they're not bullet points, but they're both things in the law. You have to meet both criteria. So for involuntary manslaughter, it has to meet both. So I'm not sure if, I don't know. But basically the whole story is he was rehearsing, and the person who was responsible for making sure the weapons were like not loaded, it wasn't live ammunition, is also being charged with manslaughter charges too. But Baldwin's being charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. He basically, they call it film industry standard. They say actors, everyone else, all the people on set, all the people who have working on the movie set are supposed to ensure that the gun is not loaded. It's not live ammunition.
Yep.
It's supposed to not be live ammunition.
Several
but
checks.
It's also a film industry standard that the actual actor is supposed to ensure that the gun are safe for them to handle. So he denies that it's an industry standard. He said on film sets, there's no practice for actors to check their own gun. So that's going to be big in the case too, because they're going to use that. The prosecutors are going to be like, it's film industry standard. What
bothers me.
But after the shooting, I'll let you go talk in a second. After the shooting, the authorities found 5 additional live rounds. They were on top of the cart where the props were kept. And in a belt that Mr. Baldwin was wearing as a costume piece. So, there was 5 additional live rounds besides the one. So someone messed up really bad.
They were sloppy as hell.
Baldwin also denies pulling the trigger. He says he never pulled the trigger.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
He said he pulled the hammer back and let it go.
But I never pulled the trigger.
Yeah, the FBI did an analysis. They said it said conclusively that the trigger had been pulled.
That right there, you just hit. That's what I was going to bring up. That bothers me because I wanna believe Alec. I don't think but he has to accept some guilt. And when there starts to be inconsistencies in your story, that's when things just really bother me. So that really bothered me that he was on a program being interviewed. He says, "Oh, no, I never pulled any trigger. Oh, no." And now it comes out that the experts and the people that do this for a living absolutely guarantee that the trigger would have had to have been pulled. So, he said he didn't pull the trigger. They say it would have had to have been pulled. So that bothers me a little bit. So, you know what, too?
Also, the
I don't know.
Also, a messed up thing about it is the person, the cinematographer who we killed, her name is Hutchins. Her last name is Hutchins. Rest in peace. But
Right.
apparently he's blaming her. She's dead, and he's blaming her. He's saying that Hutchins directed him where to point the gun.
Yeah.
And then, then he said he didn't, so he's blaming everyone else. He said he directed her. This could be true. She could have directed him where to point the gun. This could be true. But then he had the audacity, and maybe he thinks maybe he's so stressed out and there's so much stress and there's so much trauma that he didn't get the facts right.
Maybe.
And also he did not pull the trigger. That's the part that's like, whoa.
That bothers me. And also, if you look with him, there's a history. There's a history of him being a little bit of a jack off. I'm just telling you the truth, the honest to God. I've seen him, explode with people and this and that. And he's always been a little bit of a strap. He really has been. So, who knows? All those Baldwins really, but especially him, he's always had time after time after time, and you see he's always been a little bit of a JO. So I don't know. I'm just telling you. So I'm not saying he's certainly not a murderer, but
but at the very least he was negligent, though.
Dude, if this happened, if it were you or me, I would be in tears. I'd be all over the place. I would be beside myself. He seemed more perturbed than anything else. Like, look, what do you bother me with this for? I told you once, that kind of, he just seemed to,
it's
go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a criminal case, and you need all 12 jurors to find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So, I wouldn't be surprised if, you get a couple jurors to be very, not to find reasonable doubt and, not to find them guilty. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's going to be quite, I think it's going to be public. It's going to be quite the case. So we're going to have the Kohberger case and we're going to have the Baldwin case. Those are pretty two high profile cases.
Yes, agreed. And as we've seen with juries, boy, oh boy. I better stop there. I mean, look, I still cannot believe the O.J. Simpson trial. I still cannot, for the life of me. It's like that. Those people some key people on that jury were looking for a reason, any little reason. Hey, like, give me a reason, give me any little leeway, and I'll let you off, and that kind of thing. They were looking for more of a reason to let him off than because the evidence against him was they were mountains again. And let me say one thing right here. To this day, there is not one scintilla of evidence. DNA, anything. There's not one scintilla of evidence pointing to anyone else on the planet Earth except O.J. Simpson. And yet he walked. And I know what happened. You know what happened. It's not a racist thing. My brothers, I love everybody, African-American community, Asian community, Latino community. You know me, Sean. It's not a racist thing. That was just a straight up deal. And I still cannot believe that happened. But when I really think about it, you know what it was? And it was restitution for the Jim Crow South and the kangaroo courts that they used to set up. And things that happened there were even more egregious than, if you can imagine that, more egregious than letting O.J. Simpson go. Because it was the other way around times 10. In the Jim Crow South, and that was all that all went. I mean, there were times when they had someone for cold-blooded murder with eyewitnesses. They'd have a kangaroo court, and Billy Bob would get off, and that is so it happened. That injustice happened hundreds of times over the other way around. And I just think it was restitution for that. And it was unfortunate that had to happen that way. And I, to this day, can't even look at O.J. Simpson on TV. I hit the mute button. I change the channel. I just can't do it because, brother, we've all had bad days. We've all had women that we've had relationships with that maybe they cheated on us or maybe they got a new boyfriend or whatever it was. You don't break out a kitchen knife and go over there and take a couple of heads off. And that's what he did. And I just can't get around it ever. And that poor man, those poor parents of both the Brown girl and
Goldman, right?
Goldman. Yeah. I just, to this day, it bothers me. But, the only thing I can think of is that somewhere along the line, he's going to pay.
Do you remember in the 1980s, a big case? There was involuntary manslaughter. Two actors died on the set of Twilight Zone, the movie.
I remember that happened.
Director John Landis and 4 associates were acquitted of involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah.
Trial lasted for 10 months and gained global attention. Do you remember that at all?
I remember the trial. I remember the movie because I couldn't wait to see the movie because I was always a Twilight Zone fan. And I remember the movie and I remember that case. I can't remember the specifics of it, but I remember watching the movie and people saying, yeah, this is the one where, people, and they filmed this thing, a couple people died, blah, blah, blah. I remember it. I remember it happening. I don't remember the specifics though.
And, Robert Duvall was on an episode of Twilight Zone. He was on the episode.
Just one? I would have figured he'd be in a couple of them.
He was probably maybe. I just know one episode he was on because I read a little bit about it. It says a misfit named Charlie Parks finds the world unfolding before him in a museum dollhouse to be more real than his boring job and overbearing mother.
I remember it.
There's like a dollhouse. You remember that one?
I remember it. Yes,
I
do.
Do you remember Robert Duvall in that?
Yeah, I do now that you said it. And what's interesting about those old Twilight Zones is you're going to find, like William Shatner, Captain Kirk, he's in them. You're going to go and say, oh my God, look at that actor. Look how young he was, that kind of a thing. Yeah. But you're going to see myriad talent in those old Twilight Zone shows, despite the fact that they're great. They're just awesome.
Do you remember in Apocalypse Now? I don't know if you realize this, but we've talked about this actor a couple episodes ago. Lawrence Fishburne was in Apocalypse Now, and so was Harrison Ford and Dennis Hopper. And wow. obviously Martin Sheen and Marlon Brando were in it too. But I think side characters were Fishburne, Harrison Ford, and Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, because you're talking like late 70s, and those guys are just starting.
Yeah, because I think we're I can see us doing Harrison Ford episode. I could see us possibly doing. I think Dennis Hopper died recently. We could do Dennis Hopper.
Oh yeah,
Marlon Brando, Martin Sheen. We have a lot of actors to get to. We're not in a rush by any means, but
right.
Yeah. So Baldwin trial is going to be huge. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be all over the news. It's going to be quite the spectacle. Because did you watch any of that Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial where he was suing her for defamation?
I watched a little bit of it. It was just making me nauseous, the whole thing.
I know some people who got so into that. I'm like, why do you care about this so much? They're talking about how she pooped on his pillow and stuff. I'm like, what is going on in that?
Both those people needed some. I'm not being funny or facetious in any way. They both needed some help, some big time help, and I think they're both victims of each other. And I just think the whole thing was, just ridiculous. I don't want to even talk about either one of them. They just irritated the shit out of me watching that.
Have you ever heard anybody call? I just want to say Johnny Depp was kind of I'm happy that he won the case because she really could have ruined his whole career, and it proved that she was also at fault in a big way.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, do you remember? Has anyone ever called a piece of poop a grumpy? Have you ever heard that? A grumpy?
I don't know, dude.
I'm just asking. I know this is off topic a little bit because I was listening to the Howard Stern show, and they're they always have they find everything that's funny in situations. They're always really on top of things, and they're in one Johnny Depp was in court with a dead serious face, and instead of saying Amber Heard pooped on his pillow, he said she left a grumpy. And I'm just like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, that's I don't know. I never heard it, and nor do I really care to specify or find out. But anyway, what else we got?
So we're moved on from grumpies and poop and all that, and
Yeah.
we're gonna go to sports. We're gonna go to sports, Joe. I don't know. There seems to be a big game tomorrow night between some team from Philadelphia and a team from New York. I'm not sure, but what are you thinking?
Fly, Eagles, fly. Yeah. I am cautiously optimistic. Um, I haven't seen my team play well in a month, but I think we've got some motivation here. You're one win away from the NFC title game, and your only thing you have to do is beat a team that you can beat, that you know very well. You have to respect them, but you can beat them. You should beat them, and if you don't, shame on you. That's the way I'm looking at it now. And these Giants are, I have to say, these Giants are better than I thought they were. Like, just of late, they really started. And I told you last week, I thought they were going to win that game because I thought the Vikings, I told you the Vikings were nowhere near as good as their deceptive record would say they were. So we have to respect these guys. The coach is better than I thought. Okay. He's a good coach. He's got them playing better. Daniel Jones looks better. Anytime you got Saquon Barkley back there. So they're on their way. Now, sometimes teams, they start to really cook and then they just fizzle out. So we'll see next year. But already this year, it's been a success for them. They're in the second level of the playoffs. They're playing better. They won a road playoff game. You know, if I'm a Giant fan, I'm thinking the arrow's pointing up. But again, sometimes teams start on the way up and then so we'll see. But for this week, our team better come out and be ready and respect these guys. And if they do, they're going to beat them. They should, if they come out and they're ready and they respect their opponent, and they play hard, we should win. We're at home. We should win by, 9 points or so.
Yeah,
so.
you guys, you're favored by 7.5. You're at home. I'm looking at the USA Today predictions. It looks like only like two of the guys. So one guy predicted, this guy Nate Davis predicted Giants 23, Eagles 20. The other guy who picked the Giants said Giants 27, Eagles 23. So, most everyone's picking the Eagles, but a lot of people are picking the Eagles. It's very close. Someone picked 26-22 Eagles, 30-20 Eagles. So you're saying about 9 points. So, yeah, you're going up on the high. You think this is going to be a convincing over a touchdown.
Well, that's no disrespect to the Giants. I mean, and I'm not just saying this because they're my team, but they're really talented. The Eagles are a very, very, very talented football team, very physical football team. When they really decide they want to run the ball, they can run it on anybody. When they decide they want to play defense, they can play defense. They got people that can cover. They got linebackers that are playing well, and they've got one of the best pass rushes and defensive lines in the league. So when all cylinders are firing, which I'm hoping is the case, now if they come out flat tomorrow, this thing could go down to the last 5 minutes. I hope that's not the case. I keep waiting for them to break out of this thing and get back to where they were about 5 weeks ago. And I don't think they're going to blow out the Giants. No way. Not this.
You know what I hate when
they're
people
playing.
say?
9 points is reasonable. Go ahead.
I've talked to a couple Eagles fans, and none of them sound really that confident. I think they should be more confident than they. If you really think you're a really good team, because their argument is like they played down to their team's levels this year. Like they beat some bad teams by not a lot of points. But they also have the thing where it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a season. They're a division rival. We already beat them twice. It's going to be tough to beat them 3 times. And come on, that's not really an excuse.
Well,
the Eagles are superior to the Giants, and they should win.
Well, you can't have it both ways, because if those Eagles fans were saying, "Yeah, man, we're going to kick their ass, we're going to stomp their ass, don't even bother show," then you'd say, "What obnoxious Eagles fan!" At least, from what I'm hearing from you, people are taking a step back. They're giving some respect to their opponent, because I respect that coach now more than I did in the beginning of the year, because I thought it was smoke and mirrors. He is a pretty good football coach, and he's got them playing better. And they're the New York Football Giants, and I say this out of respect. They got four trophies, right? They got 4 championships. They're a pretty good organization, and it's a division thing, which is always not always, but often it turns into like a street fight. So I don't know what to expect, but I can tell you this. And that's, I think it should be refreshing to your ears to hear Eagles fans keep it close to the vest and keep it, so like I said, if you had Eagles fans that were bragging and braggadocious and overconfident, you'd say how obnoxious they were. You'd be the first one. These Eagles are ridiculous. No, I think it's a good thing that they're like that, because it shows that, most of the football fans here that I know, the Eagle fans, they're smart fans, just like Giant fans. They're smart football fans. And, at the end of the day, it's a football game. Just like, look, when I say I hate the Cowboys, it's sports hate. I don't hate, Dak Prescott. I don't hate McCarthy. I don't hate those guys. I hate them. If I saw them out somewhere, it'd probably be nice to meet them and how are you and this and that. But sports hate, right? Sports hate. And it's not the players or whatever. It's the obnoxious Dallas fans that I can't stand. The people that aren't even, just the obnoxious ones. You're a knowledgeable one. You're a reasonable one, because you and I talk a lot. But I'm talking about the obnoxious ones, Yeah. And we have our obnoxious crew too here. But don't let that little bit, again, don't let the 10 or 20% ruin the 80%, because most Philly sports fans, Shawnee, you know this, you've been around this area. Most people are the same everywhere. Most people are good and decent, and you get knuckleheads everywhere you go. Every city has knuckleheads. You got Buffalo, you got people jumping, you got people getting drunk at 10 o'clock in the morning and jumping off cars on the freaking card tables, and you got throwing up all over the place. And you've got these knuckleheads in every sports venue, every town, right? You've got them. So it's just sometimes ours get, ours get overblown,
So Cowboys, Eagles, that could be the potential matchup in the NFC Championship. Who knows?
Wow.
Because if that was the matchup, me and you were going to have a field day to talking about that potential, because one of our teams will be going to the Super Bowl. We were pretty excited.
The last time it happened, you weren't around. It was 1980. I remember it. And it was in Philly, Veterans Stadium. It was about 5 degrees that day. And it was one of our best days because it's the first Super Bowl we went to. So, look, the Philadelphia Eagles were winning NFL championship. They held the champions trophy 3-4 times before that. But when they started to call it the Super Bowl, it was like 1960, whatever. But, all those Eagle teams were world champions many a times. But when they started to call it the Super Bowl in 66, I think it was, that was right in the middle of our drought too. So that's the first Super Bowl the Eagles went to, and Dick Vermeil and that whole thing. So, but I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget. There were jokers in the stands with no shirts on, dude. And it was like 5 degrees out. I'll never forget that. It's a great day.
What year was that?
1980.
I think I watched that because that was the Cowboys. Like during COVID, there wasn't like sports. So I was yearning for live sports. So I used to go on YouTube and watch old Cowboys games. I think I watched that Cowboys Eagles game.
Yeah, it's neat to go back and watch it on NFL films and stuff.
Yeah.
Wilbert Montgomery had like a 40-yard run, and he busted it open, and the place was going absolutely berserk. This is, you're going back. You had, I don't think Staubach was there. I think it was Danny White. You had Danny White, you had Randy White on defense, and Too Tall Jones, and Emerson Walls on defense, and Tony Dorsett, and you had the whole crew. Landry was still there, but it was for us, a day to remember. Unfortunately, the Raiders got us in the Super Bowl as a damn good Raiders team, but it is what it is. That's why this thing in 2017 felt so damn good, because we were close before, and then we were there in 2005. And if McNabb didn't throw 3 interceptions, right to here, Teddy Bruschi, is that your name? Here, take the. We could have won that. We were in position to win that game too. And even Belichick said after that, he said, man, if we were ever to be had, this would have been the day. But unfortunately, and I don't want to blame him, but McNabb cost them that game. You switch quarterbacks in that game, and the Eagles win their first title in 2005, but they didn't.
Was that the game where Mr. McNabb threw up on the field?
Yep. No, he threw up on. Well, yeah.
Threw up versus the Panthers or the Panthers or the Patriots. Hold on. I think it was in the Super Bowl, so it had to be the Patriots, right?
Jacksonville, yeah, it was in. I thought Jacksonville, it had to be the Jaguars, but it was Jacksonville is where the Super Bowl was. Yes, it was that game. It wasn't that game.
Okay.
He not only did that, and people talk about why. Don used to like to drink. So, and his teammates said he was hungover, and I don't know why he was drinking the night before the Super Bowl, but anyway, a couple of his teammates said, because he used to, and since then I've seen it on, he clips of it.
You sure it wasn't too much Campbell's chunky soup?
Yeah, it could have been. I don't know, but it's sports, and at the end of the day, it's just sports. I mean, look, Pittsburgh, the Steelers won. I mean, in an era where there was no free agency. That's the whole different. If there's free agency, those 4 Super Bowls, and they may have been 1 or 2, but to win 4, you had to have a good reason. I'll tell you why you had a good reason. You didn't have free agency. You had a good 3 good drafts in a row. You had captive customers for, players for 10 years. Now, before that, go look at what the Steelers did in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah, you said they're horrible, right?
They won one playoff game in 50-some years.
Did you
they
know?
were absolutely pathetic. What?
Let me ask you a question real quick. Did you know that there was once a team called the Steagles, and it was the Steelers and the Eagles?
World War II, they didn't have enough players. A lot of guys went off to war. Okay. A lot of guys went off to war in World War II, and they didn't have enough on either team, the Pittsburgh or Philly. So they combined, and I guess the Steagles, it sounds more like Eagles than Steelers. I guess the Eagles took precedent because in the 1940s, the Steelers were like the Arizona Cardinal. They won nothing at that point, and the Eagles already had a couple championships under the belt. In the 1940s, the Eagles were like the pride of the league at one point. They really were. So the name of that team, the combo, was Steagles, ST for Steelers, and then Eagles. That's true. That's true.
You want to hear just a little story real quick? The only reason I know that is because I was at a bar. There's this one bar in Belmar called Bar A. It's pretty famous. It's like, it's near this place called DJ's, and which is famous, like Jersey Shore and whatnot. But anyway, my friends and I were at the bar, and my friend was trying to win like a free like ESPN like keychain or something dumb, like some little like knickknack or whatever from ESPN. And the trivia question was, what was the name of like this something about Pittsburgh and Philadelphia team or something like that. Uh-huh. And I took out my phone, and I think I had a BlackBerry at the time, and I found the answer, and I gave my friend the answer, and he won. But I did cheat, because you got me thinking about tonight, because I was like, I'm not going to cheat on this game. I really want to have fun with this game. But
yeah, you don't want to do that. And I'm glad you did, because it would be easy to, and I don't. It's like, look, it's fun. It's fun to try to test your memory and be true to thyself. Because
we've done this at work. We're thinking about like that one day we couldn't think of Lane Johnson's name. We're like, no, don't take out your phone. Don't take out your phone. We got to think about this ourselves. Let's
we eventually got it, and it felt better.
Yeah. Anyway, so Cowboys 49ers Sunday at 6:30. I don't know if this is fair or not, but the Cowboys played on Monday night, and the 49ers played last Saturday. I mean, they're on a lot more rest, but I digress on that. But anyway, the 49ers are favored by 4 points. They're at home. It's really tough to predict. I mean, I saw a funny quote from a good football writer for Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio. He said the 49ers have a collection of badasses who can roll out of bed and run through a brick wall.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty funny quote.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. And this is Dak's coming out game, because if Dak can win this game, that's going to be, because we haven't won. We won our first road playoff game, I think, since 1992 when we beat the Bucs last week. Right. We conquered Tom Brady. Now we got to face this rookie quarterback who could be the next Tom Brady, possibly Brock Purdy, especially if he wins a Super Bowl this year. Everyone's going to be comparing him to Brady. But they're a talented football team. They got Kyle Shanahan's a pretty good coach. I think he's a better coach than our guy,
right?
McCarthy. But it's only a 4-point spread. I think the over under is 46 points. I don't know. I mean, I think if Dak could continue his momentum, the 49ers defense is they're a lot different than the Bucs. Tell me, you sent me a voice note the other day talking about the Cowboys 49ers. What's some of you had some funny thoughts, you're basically saying the Cowboys have no chance. And why do you think that?
Well, I'm going to tell you why. First of all, you touched on something. they're on a short rest as opposed to the other guys being on a longer rest. That's A. B, they're traveling. They're good, and the other guys are home. C, if they play on a neutral field with all things equal. Let's say they played on a neutral field with all things equal. When I look at a game, I look at this offense against that defense, and I look at their defense, and vice versa, right? So I look at the Dallas offense against the 49er defense. Okay. 49er defense, they are some badasses, and they don't, and I know the Cowboys offensive line is pretty good, but they're a little banged up too. They ran the ball. Yeah, they ran a good ball again. Yeah, like I said, what I found out the other night was more than anything was just how goddamn bad the Buccaneers are. They were awful. And I come to find out they have no running game at all. They can't protect, and they can't play defense anyway. They're really not even a playoff team. I'm not trying to diminish the Cowboys win. Congratulations. But this is not only this is an animal of a whole different color. Now, okay, so the Cowboys offense, the running game is going, I'm not going to say it's going to be shut down, but it's good. The yards are going to be hard to come by. So you're not going to be able to, quote unquote, establish the run. I don't think, not against these cats. Now you got to turn around and chuck it. Now you better have like a primo passer to do that, okay? Because sooner or later they're going to key in on it. And that back end of that 49er defense is solid all the way through. So now you're going to, okay, not going to run the ball. All right, Prescott, you got to do it. Now, I know you got some good receivers, but these guys are going to be physical and locked down. It's going to be a whole different ball game. I think it's going to be difficult. As good as the Cowboys offense is, I think it's going to be difficult. Now let's flip it right away. Let's talk about the 49er offense against Cowboy defense.
McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, man, that's going to be scary.
Now, here, but one thing that, look, all teams have weaknesses. One of the Cowboys' weaknesses is that you can, if you really get physical enough and you're bad enough, you can hammer them right up the middle and gut them with some runs, right? You really, really can.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can. They're susceptible to that. Now, when you really start to come up and try to really protect that and bring extra guys in, now, not that the 49ers passing game is like what it used to be, but you don't have to be all that at all to burn some of these Cowboys defensive backs, because they've shown real vulnerability of late. They really have in the last 6 weeks on that back end. Now, the reason why they're not exposed that often on that back end is because they have a pretty damn good pass rush. We know this, number 11 and everybody else. But if you got a team that can neutralize that pass rush, and this offensive line is pretty damn good, that's a physical front, and they can neutralize some of that pass rush, you got to have your back end sharp, and you do not have lockdown corners back there. So I could see that happening, and I can also see the 49ers can run. They can run on anybody. So they can run at you, right? Gut you in places, and they can run the ball. And they got some tough people running the ball. They're very physical. And so pick your poison. You're going to come up and get that, and then we're going to go after that. If you're going to, really, keep guys on the back end and a soft front, we're going to smash you up the middle. So they can do those two things. I just see the 49ers being able to shut down the Cowboys running game and put it on Dak.
Yeah, because Jason Peters is not playing.
Peters isn't playing, and I think you lost a guy a couple weeks ago on that line. Now, they're pretty formidable normally, but I just think it's going to be too much for them to handle.
What do you think? What do you think about, because Greg Rosenthal's an NFL.com writer. He thinks the 49ers are going to win by 6, but he uses really specific numbers. He thinks because Nick Bosa played 65 snaps in his past 2 games combined. Micah Parsons played 79 just one game on Monday night, plus it's short rest. I think that really matters. Do you think the Bosa played this X amount of snaps less than Parsons? Is that really important? That's going to be a key to the game, because I'm that's overanalyzing, I think.
I think it is too. You know what? These dudes are professional athletes, dude. They're in phenomenal shape. And if you give them 3 or 4 days, and then if you turn around and say, hey, look, guys, you win this god darn game, you're going to the NFC Championship. I don't care how tired you are. I could jump off the chair right now and I'm not even playing. I mean, it's that big. So, and so these guys are younger. They're in incredible shape. And yeah, it's something to look at, but I don't think so. Not in the case of those 2 dudes that you just mentioned. They're going to be up for it no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's in San Francisco, so I gotta give them the nod.
All right, so I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm going to be loyal. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking we win this 30-24. I'm just going to call it 30-24. That's my prediction. Cowboys 30-24. Cowboys Eagles, and I think the Eagles will win too. Cowboys Eagles, and it's going to be a hell of a NFC Championship match, but. The game we didn't get to see a couple weeks ago because obviously there was other things that happened, like an emergency, because Damar Hamlin obviously was, fighting for his life. But Bills Bengals are playing at 3 before the Cowboys game. That's going to be a great game too. It looks like the Bills are favored by 5.5. But you never know. I mean, Josh Allen he's playing pretty inconsistent lately. It is, Bills are playing at home, but Joe Burrow's he's pretty special. So. I would not be shocked if the Bengals win at all.
I wouldn't either. And as a matter of fact, I have had concerns about the Bills for the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks. They're not the same. And I don't know, and listen, that's what I told you. I said, look, dude, early in the year, I said, yeah, they look great right now, but they don't hand out the Lombardi trophy at Halloween, brah. They just don't do it. There's a whole long season. A lot can happen. And the Bills don't look the same to me as they did. And the Bengals aren't scared to go anywhere, bro. You saw them last year. They'll go anywhere and win, right? So I'm going to predict the Bengals to win that game by 4 points. I don't know what the numbers are going to be. By 4 points, maybe 5. More than a field goal, less than a touchdown, somewhere in there is my feeling. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. No one really knows. So to predict scores, I don't know. So I'd like to predict the differential. So I'll say 5 points. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to win. The 49ers will beat the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to beat them by about 8 points. I think 8 points is fair. I think the Eagles win by about 9. And what's the other game? Oh, the Chiefs and the Jags.
We touched on it in the beginning of the show. Like I said, I mean, the Chiefs are favored by about 10 points. They're playing at home. I'd be pretty shocked if Mahomes loses to a young Trevor Lawrence in that game. Trevor Lawrence
I feel something.
But Doug Peterson, it's the Doug Peterson factor. You're not always going to come up with his game plan, his different plays and different things. Because, I don't know. I think the Andy Reid, it's going to be Andy Reid in the AFC Championship. I'm thinking, I don't know, Bills Bengals is interesting. Yeah, that's a tough one to predict. Bills Bengals, I don't really know, but I do think the Chiefs win pretty easily, though, to be honest with you.
I could see why you would do that. I really can. And Arrowhead's a hard place to play. And this team just came back. They looked horrible for the first half. But you know what? I gotta think that it's this David and Goliath thing. And I think that if I'm the Jags, I'm going in there with a little bit of swag. We got nothing to lose. And the Chiefs are like, damn, we can't let these guys be. And I just think that, that if they're playing right, that Jaguars team is really interesting. And if they're playing wrong, that Chiefs team can look very pedestrian. So I'm going to envision a scenario in which the Jaguars keep this thing close, and maybe some fluky, goofy fumble by Mahomes or hopefully Kelsey. I'd love to see that. I love his brother.
Also, to remember
I can't stand Kelsey, but I love his brother. So we'll see.
Yeah, the Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, so that's pretty important.
Right. That's big time. They're when they look bad, Sean, they look pretty pedestrian. They really do.
Yeah.
And when the Jaguars look sharp, it's like, whoa. And who
What about
knows Andy Reid's offense better
coaching?
than Doug?
Doug Peterson has a Super Bowl, and Sean McDermott doesn't. Sean McDermott's a hell of a coach,
He's a
but
good football coach, yeah.
can't you see the story already though? Can't you see like I'm just thinking of like the young coaches who could possibly win a Super Bowl. McCarthy's already won, Peterson's already won, Reed's already won. Can you see a scenario and a storyline where like it's like Sirianni versus McDermott, like the Bills versus the Eagles type of thing, and it just happens, and like it's young coach versus young coach type of, I know Sirianni's younger. I think McDermott's like 48, but I could just see that storyline, like McDermott versus Sirianni. Not that I think it's going to happen, because I don't want I'll be happy for you if the Eagles do make it, but I like to see the Cowboys, but I could just see McDermott versus Sirianni, some sort of storyline playing out. I don't know.
I just, and who knows? Sometimes you think you got these teams figured out, then all of a sudden the playoffs hit and they hit that extra gear. Who knows? But I think the Bills are in a little bit of trouble. I really do, especially with the Bengals and that cat, Burrow. He doesn't care. He's got ice water, dude. He's really something. He really is.
Did you know Sean McDermott went to LaSalle College High School and North Penn High School? I think he's pretty sure he's from like the Philadelphia area.
He's from here, and he almost had the head coaching job here like about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something. At one point, he almost had it, and he didn't get it. But that's okay. We've always done pretty well. I'll tell you much about the Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie and his administration. They've always been able to interview people. I coughed. They've always been. Should
we just cough on air instead of having that little silence?
No, we shouldn't. And eventually, we're going to stop telling everybody. But they went out and they hired. They learned early on. The first guy they hired was Ray Rhodes, who's a good football guy. He's a good football. But then they went Andy Reid. Now, Andy Reid was this guy, this big heavy-set guy from Green Bay that was some kind of and like, who the hell? And okay, he turned into a pretty damn good football coach, right? They thought Chip Kelly, but it didn't take them long to kick Chip Kelly out of here. Doug Peterson's a good football coach. And this guy Sirianni seems like he is too. So it seems like they've always had a knack for being able to spot good football coaches, and that's not easy to do all the time. So, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So
pretty
exciting. Saturday and Sunday will be very exciting. It's football weekend. We're not, the Knicks lost tonight. They lost to the Hawks, Hawks are becoming like Hawks are like basically in the 90s, the Knicks had a rivalry between the Pacers and the Bulls because they hated Reggie Miller and Michael Jordan. Now, because Trae Young's pretty infamous in New York, because like he was very like when the Hawks beat them a couple years ago in the playoffs. Trae Young was pretty animated and talking a lot of crap to the New York fans. So New York doesn't really like Trae Young, and unfortunately, they lost to the Hawks tonight. But that's basketball. Villanova beat St. John's in Madison Square Garden tonight. And St. John's was favored, I think. St. John's was like, they're at home and they had 13 wins. Villanova only had like 8 wins going into the game. So big win for Nova. Congratulations.
Did Nova get that guy back? I need to interrupt you, Sean, but I want to ask you a question. Did Nova get that guy back they lost last year?
No, we're waiting. Justin Moore. There's the thing about Villanova, because everyone thinks their season's over pretty much. If Justin Moore comes back for the Big East tournament and we win that Big East tournament, we can be a very interesting team.
And I hope so, because I heckle you a little bit, but I love Philadelphia teams, and that's a Philadelphia team, bro. And yeah. I'm not as crazy about them as you are, but I love come tournament time. Of course, I'm rooting for Nova. Damn straight.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Yep. All right, so that's the show for today. All links for social media is going to be in the description. The song is "Our House" by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Joe, I'll let you have the floor.
Scratch my back with a hacksaw. Good night.
Take care, everyone.